Lewis Puller went home to Virginia. It was just 37 years, 4 months, and 2 days since he had boarded the train in South Carolina to exchange the uniform of a VMI cadet for that of a Marine Corps boot. But his career with the Marines wasn't quite over. Back to the book. On a dimly lit night of April 8th, 1956, a platoon of Marine recruits at Parris Island, South Carolina, was marched into a tidal arm of Broad River by 31-year-old veteran drill instructor Staff Sergeant Matthew C. McKeown. 6 recruits drowned. The commandant, General Randolph McCall Pate, immediately relieved the commanding officer of the recruit depot and told Congress that McKeown would be punished to the full extent allowed by our Uniform Code of Military Justice. There was a nationwide outcry from the press, pulpit, and scores of civic organizations. A court inquiry descended upon Parris Island. McKeown became a national cause de célébrer, assailed by prohibitionists as a brutal drunkard, as a symbol of military tyranny which must be destroyed, as a racist, bigot, ne'er-do-well. There were cries for harsh punishment, even execution. Now, he ends up going to trial. And for this trial, the defense brings in Chesty Puller, who we know believes in hard training. And here we go. This is a court scene. Berman, who's the lawyer, used the general like a master showman. The defense desires to call to the stand Lieutenant General Puller. Sevier is one of the lawyers. Sir, how do you know the accused? Puller, I don't know him except by his pictures in the newspapers and what I've read about him. Then Berman took over and questioned the general about his career as a Marine. Berman, how long were you in Korea? Puller, about 9 months. Berman, were you in combat? Yeah. Were you decorated? Yeah. Without going into any of your other decorations, isn't it true that you've received 5 Navy Crosses? Correct. Berman asked his opinion of the Marine Corps' mission. The definition of military training is success in battle. In my opinion, that is the only objective of military training. It wouldn't make any sense to have a military organization on the backs of the American taxpayers with any other definition. I've believed that ever since I was been a Marine. What is the most important element of that training? I'll quote Napoleon. He stated that the most important thing in military training is discipline. Without discipline, an army becomes a mob. Now then, in that context, can you tell us whether you have an opinion based on your experience as to whether or not the training and discipline is for all situations confined to lesson plan or syllabi or training regulations? No. The training of a basic Marine is conducted almost entirely outside, in the field, on the drill ground, on the rifle range, that kind of work. The Marine gets an idea of how the Marine Corps is run during this training, but his training is outside work. Can you tell us, General, of the things you learned here as a recruit? Well, the main thing that I've remembered all my life is the definition of esprit de corps. Now, my definition, the definition I was taught that I've always believed in, is that esprit de corps means love for one's military legion, in my case, the United States Marine Corps. I also learned that this loyalty to one's corps travels both ways, up and down. And he continued through this trial. And that night, he went to the enlisted man's club. And big crowd, of course, was there. And they start shouting and yelling for him to speak. And finally, he stands up and says, I've talked enough for today. This will be my last request. Do your duty, and the Marine Corps will be as great as it has always been for another 1,000 years. The applause was deafening.